Good morning. It's been a couple of days. I had to think about it. I had to think about life. See, the thing is I was just talking in a previous video how I feel like if it becomes an obligation, then it loses the joy of why you're doing it, right? And I'd like obligated myself to make 61 videos, my attempt to change the world. 61 days. And then I realized that if I got up every day and did a video, that I was defeating the purpose of doing the videos. So here we are, a couple days later, do another video. We're going to get to 61, but I took the time frame off. And as soon as I removed time from this, it started flowing again. I don't know how else to explain that to you. So I've been having this conversation with a buddy of mine around the edges of an idea that I had that I put forth in a different part of the videos. And it had to do with education. And education as a failure is what I see as a failure. And so we went back and forth a little bit about this. Then I realized I needed to make a whole video about this, that I needed to expand upon education, that I needed to take that word and pull it apart. So let's talk about education. Our current understanding of technology and education is based on what we were taught in school. Let's start there. This is what makes it so difficult to wade through. This is why it has to be broken down into a pie chart, because there's a lot to unpack here. The first thing we have to understand, I'm 41 years old. And only because I continue to go and research new ideas and new concepts and try to stay abreast of some of the new technology that's coming out, I feel not educated, but I feel dumb, right? When kids in 6th grade can do the math that I can do, and it's the edge of what I can do, it's very interesting. It's very humbling. But instead of letting that become daunting, or to allow that to be like, well, I keep trying to push against that truth that I can learn more. Unfortunately, that is not a mentality that is encouraged in today's society. At the best, as an adult, you're encouraged to learn more about your field of what makes you money. Not even what you're interested in, but they encourage you to learn more about the business that's paying you to be there. Why is this relevant? Let me tell you why this is relevant. Because if we think about that, there's one job where they don't encourage that. Education. You go, no, yeah, some colleges are abreast of the current technologies and are teaching current string theory and theoretical math and the macro and micro of organisms as an applicable thing, not as something we're trying to figure out some way to study. When I went to school, and granted, I didn't go all the way through high school, but the things that we were being taught about when I went to school, and we're talking, what, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, what the teachers knew then is what they taught me. Do you know what the percentage is? I don't want to ruin it for you. Google the percentage of teachers that are over the age of 40 in our current curriculum school system. In fact, just Google what the percentage is of teachers that are over the age of 35. Let's just start there. I'm not going to tell you the number. I'm going to let you argue with statistics instead of me. But you look at this number and you go, well, that's weird. So that percentage of people over 35 that are teaching our kids, none of them have the same education that 7th graders have in China. I'm not trying to be a dick, but the people that are over the age of 35 that are teachers, the way that they were taught, there's not a lot of room for new growth for them to then teach our kids the edge of what they should be beginning to know so they can take our knowledge and push it forward. Let's start with the fact there's a percentage of our education system, you got to Google it, where the people that are teaching our children don't have the education of what we currently understand. Now, if it was just 5%, right? If 5% of our teachers were over the age of 35, this wouldn't be that big a deal. If 10% of the education system in America was teaching below par of what we actually know, that could be a crisis. 10% can affect the whole in a bad way. Just the misinformation. They talk about misinformation and fact checking online, but those are the same people that shut down the scientists about COVID if they didn't say that it was going to kill all of you and you all needed to take shots or you would all fucking die. Just remember that no one under the age of 35 was claiming that as an accredited scientist. It was the older scientists that all pushed that fucking narrative. Don't forget that. If you need an example of how miseducation with the smartest people that think they're the smartest, none of those people have a grasp of even 30% of the new truth that exists in the world, the new science, the new math, the shit that CERN is doing. Most of our fucking scientists can't understand it. Most of our teachers can't teach the process as to how they even came to the conclusions to find new theories through CERN. And you say, oh, only some people can get it. It's because very few people are taught it. Not because it's not knowledge. The problem isn't that we're not gaining new knowledge. We're gaining new knowledge so fast. We're doubling our knowledge so fast that 10 years after a teacher learns the curriculum and starts to teach children, at least 15% of the knowledge that they are absolutely were taught to teach the children is already outdated and false. 15%. Within 10 years, 15 fucking percent. Do you know when the last time we changed the fucking curriculum books for the education system for America was? I'm going to let you Google that. You're going to have to Google that one. We're going to get interactive from now on. I'm going to make you look things up yourself. You're going to have to educate yourself to argue with me. And instead of just presenting ideas to you, I'm going to make you fact check them. And then when you find the facts, then maybe we can have a clear understanding between us about how to discuss the problem. It's not that I have answers for everything. It's just that I see these things. See, I've always been the kind of human being where I look at a situation and you call it perfect, and I have this understanding that I can always improve upon something. Myself, the world around me, the way that we communicate, all of it. It's all susceptible to new understanding. All of it. Everything is new currently. You see? And our education system doesn't teach that. It doesn't teach us this number, but here's all the theories that are either proving or disproving that number, that equation, that way to do math, that way to do scientific theory, the way that light moves, how things interact with each other, biology. What about all these new species we keep finding? We did cloning in the early 2000s. Where are we at with that technology? It didn't go away. See, the idea that bioengineering can only be taught to a few people when realistically you can use an AI to do the job of all those people that are gatekeeping, and that AI could teach everyone how to talk the language. See, math isn't hard. It's just another language you have to learn. Science isn't hard. It's another language you have to learn. Reading and writing, it's literally the textbook for how to learn. And the idea that somehow that Harvard and Yale should have any different curriculum or different understanding than a community college that the person with no money goes to, that there should be a gap in that. I have a problem with this. I have a problem with education. I have a problem with the way it's presented, because it's presented in a structured way that doesn't actually bring in the aspect of the fact that we're continuously learning. You don't go to school to learn. You go to school to be told what's truth. Let me say that again. Our education system is set up to give you a basic understanding of truth as we know it, as our society has found out due to every circumstance and instance in which we interacted with the world. And here's our base knowledge of truth right here. That's what the education system's supposed to be. But if we don't have all the new truths right in the beginning as we teach, we're not teaching truth. We're teaching an outdated version of how we thought. And that outdated version of how we thought, it's not applicable in today's society. That's why there's so much miscommunication in between generations. You've got one group of people, human beings, younger people, that are learning things that we never thought were possible, creating things that we never thought were possible. And for the most part, as soon as something new is understood, there's got to be peer reviews and papers written and all these things, and everybody's got to agree, right? So if we've already agreed, and this is, you got to Google this, that 50% of everything we understand now, today, in physics and science and math and equations and quantum physics and biology and space and time and gravity, how are they able to affect the weather? All of these things, since we put the textbooks in place, we've updated. Have you ever in China see how they do math, just times problems, and the way that they break numbers down and they change the columns around and it becomes the same number compared to the way we used to do math? Have you ever seen that? That's just one example, one, of how far behind people's views of math are. I do math this way. It's the way I was taught. There's a new way to do math that seems to work rather well, and it's different than the way we even structure numbers and how we compute them. Quantum physics and quantum computing is on the new system. Why are they still teaching the old system anywhere? Think about this. What would be the point if we know something to not be true? Why would we still teach it to the most impressionable people in the world, our children? What would be the point of that? Why is this going on? What's the issue? How do we fix this? I think asking the questions has the very answers in them. That education requires a lot more than what we're currently doing. And education and the lack thereof is what's causing 90% of the problems in the world. If all of our young kids understood finance and taxes and LLCs and the banking system and fractional banking and interest rates, if they were taught that, right out the gate. So any lawyer and any tax guy was no smarter than everybody else. They wouldn't have a job. Everybody would file their own taxes. Wait a minute, what did I just say? Did I really just say that if we educated people just about taxes, we'd take an entire multi-billion-dollar industry off the market like that immediately within 4 generations? That wouldn't even be a job that you could have to be a tax guy? What about real estate? If you understood everything about real estate, would there be any real estate brokers? Would there be any investment firms that own shit tons of houses that nobody was living in? Fuck no, there wouldn't. Why is it that every little piece of this lack of education leads to a multi-billion-dollar industry in America? Why is that? Does anybody think that's a weird coincidence besides me? And teachers always, we want more money and we need more of this, and it's not safe to teach our kids. Did anybody consider that the education system and the teachers themselves are the fucking problem? That their lack of education is why they can't teach children that are so far different and advanced than they are that they look dumb trying to teach their fucking class and they have no respect from the kids? I respect a motherfucker who can talk me under the table and tell me things that I never heard before and get me to want to learn that. So I'm as smart as that dude because I was interested in what they had to say. How can I be interested in an education system that teaches me lies that I then have to fucking reprogram myself about and re-educate myself about after I get out of school? If I have to go 8 hours a day, my entire childhood, to a fucking school that teaches me shit that doesn't help me in life and actually helps me to fail in every fucking aspect, how am I going to respect the school system or the teachers or the curriculum or anything else about it? I'm not. And if I'm not going to do it, I can't expect any child to do so. If my entire essence is to learn as an adult, I could have never learned as a kid. I know I couldn't. I tried. I couldn't learn fuck all when I went to school. And I don't think it's because I'm uneducated. I don't think it's because I was stupid. I don't think it's because I had some kind of learning disability. I think it literally had to do with seeing the real world and then coming into a system and a setting that wasn't true. It was like pretending that we were 1965. Somehow, we've gotten to the point where the only thing we do is teach humans how to make money for someone else. Like, if they educated you on how to make money for yourself, no problem. And you could say they do, but listen. I could ask ChatGPT to write out my curriculum for the year in 8th grade math, and it would present, based on just our current understanding, what should be taught at 8th grade. And the standard that ChatGPT would tell you, based on our current understanding of math, would look like a college course in China. See, don't think that I think that all our math and science and everything's actually being taught. There's a cap. And it's based on what part of technology we need humans to work on now so we can have more creature comforts. And not all of us, just a very few of us. How come some Stone Age motherfuckers like the Egyptians could build things we can never build and understand the universe, the rotation of things that we just now confirmed, and somehow we're more educated and advanced than anybody before us? How is it that there's people that understand quantum physics and not everybody understands quantum physics when it's very easy to teach it simply by the exchange of human interaction? That is quantum physics. It's quantum entanglement. fuck you. You're going to remember me for the rest of your life. We're quantumly entangled based on that memory. That's quantum physics. It's not hard. You just have to take it to a person level, and it makes perfect sense. As soon as you take it to human interaction, if you use human interaction to explain quantum physics, it all fits right into fucking place. All you have to do is have a soul. All you need is a soul to be able to use quantum physics to affect your own reality. And you all have a soul, every last one of you. Even if you think it's on loan. But this education system, this idea that somehow we're educated, that somehow the world's just how it is and there's no way to fix it. You know what happened? If right now we started first grade, right? And for the next 4 years after that, so first grade, the next year of first graders, next year of first graders, next year of first graders, and just those 4 generations, right? And we educated those 4 generations all the way through college, free everything, the best of the best, whatever the fuck you want to try out. You want to try fucking doing advanced physics in 7th grade because you're cool. We already got a program for that. I don't care how old you are. You want to get into this? It's not based on your age, but on what you want to learn and how fast you want to learn it. We'll fast track. You can learn whatever you want. Do you realize you'd have 4 generations of people that could talk to each other? That you would have 4 generations of humans that thought the same way, that there was no division, not in education, not in social constructs, not in anything, that these 4 generations of children themselves, as they grew up with a unified idea of what's going on based on our actual knowledge, that those 4 generations would wipe away all knowledge that wasn't true. That by the end of being 25 years old, because to me, they can get educated till they're 50 if they want, but let's just say first grade through the end of college, and you took my social experiment with just 4 generations of kids in the United States, at the end of that, 20% of everything that's wrong, I state to you, would be fixed. Because if you educated those 4 generations, they would make fucking sure that nobody else ever got to educate other than the way they educated. And then they would continue to advance that education because now they're in control of it. We let you educate however you wanted. Now, how should we continue? Because this isn't our world. This is your world. And you're now 25 fucking years old. And you have more education than 90% of everybody in the US. Don't think you're educated. You've been dummied down. But they haven't. If you let 4 generations of kids come up like that, you'd fix the whole system. And if when they got educated enough that they were now in control of it and they can make the decisions on how kids should be educated, and nobody past them no longer gets to do anything, because even though we came up with a new way that they could experience and create themselves, we're not in control of it anymore. We don't get to have control anymore on how well we learn, how fast we learn, the ways that we learn. You don't get to fucking make that decision. You're already outdated as a human being based on you not wanting to learn anymore. Not because you couldn't, you stopped. You can't make decisions about education if you're no longer educating yourself. You can't do it. I'm sorry, but just fucking 2 years of not studying that thing that you think you're the leading expert in, there's going to be 15 people at least that take it way beyond anything you could have thought of yourself. And since you didn't pick up a book and open it up, you're not educated. I don't give a fuck that you're educated up to 2019. It's 2024. There's 5 years of new studies that you have not been privy to, and you're no longer educated. And we need to keep that mindset, I believe, no matter what, before we allow anybody to teach anything about fucking anything. If you can't spend 25 years educating yourself and teaching yourself how to stay up to date on everything going on in your field of study, then you're a student, not a teacher. And you need to go back to learning. That's why I keep learning. I know I don't know shit. So I keep teaching myself new things. And then they come out with new shit. And then I got to go back, and the new shit I could barely understand, it's now outdated. Now I got to understand the new shit based on the misconception of the old shit that someone just taught me was fucking truth. You see how that works? It's a problem. And I think that not taking this problem really fucking seriously right the fuck now is going to lead to the world looking a lot worse than it does in 4 fucking generations.